creative soul, and welcome back to another episode of Chakra-Care for the Creative Soul. Hello, I'll be your host today, Pollyanna Blanco, and today we're going to be looking at spiritual hygiene for lightworkers. This is a part of a 7-part series, and today we're focusing on going beyond balancing the third eye chakra. And I can't sort of oh my gosh, I'm getting tongue-tied already because I'm getting excited. So much is coming through so quickly that I just can't believe, and yet I can believe. I'm just blown away by how these shows are lining up with what's going on energetically in the world right now. Because ever since the full moon this past Thursday, and I know I sort of skipped last weekend, it was Thanksgiving here in Canada, and it was sort of a busier weekend. And so I just felt I would move last week's show to this week. And now that I trusted that process, and now I'm seeing the alignment of it, it's kind of tickling me because we just had a very powerful super full moon on Thursday, and we're in this 5-day window where everything's accelerating. And some of you may even be noticing that along with your visions and dreams for the future, everything is accelerating. Absolutely everything. Your thoughts, your emotions, maybe aches and pains in your body too. And it's part of this big sort of shift that we're all going through, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, that everything is seeking expansion. So the key word is everything, like everything. I know because last weekend I danced my heart and soul out, and I then discovered that I was at a salsa congress, the Canada Salsa Congress, and here in Toronto. And I stayed afterwards to do some dancing because dancing just brings me so much joy, and it's something that to do that kind of dancing doesn't happen as often for me anymore. Through choices I've made. And so I made the choice, I need to get my dancing shoes dusted back off, and I can get back on the dance floor and start dancing. And my ankle was, and the side of my foot started getting a little tender from it. It had been starting the week before, and then prior to that, and then post dancing, it intensified, it expanded, the pain expanded. And so then I had to go get it treated, and it was muscular. So I share that little anecdotal story with you today just because I feel like we have this almost ascension muscle that is flexing itself, that is wanting to get stronger. It's wanting to become more resilient. And the interesting thing about my foot and the muscle, that when I went for osteopathy and acupuncture on it, the regular service provider that I go to, he shared with me that's a very difficult muscle to stretch. And I kind of had to giggle at that because right now I feel like that is sort of a metaphor on a more collective level, that there are certain muscles that are more difficult to stretch. And that is because of our third eye chakra. So what I want to unpack with you today, and what came through as divine inspired speech today, is this topic of trusting our inner seeing, trusting our inner visions, and then discerning all those other images that also are floating across our mind's eye that are not that, right? Being able to sift through and mine for the gold. I'm thinking of the gold rush where people were panning for gold, and you pick up a lot of rocks on the way. And then every now and again, there's a nugget of gold if you're patient, persistent, tenacious, and consistent. And that's sort of like our third eye chakra. You know, it is the seat of our inner vision, our imagination. Depending on what you read and what source you go to for information about the third chakra, some people will say it's the pineal gland. Others will say it's the pituitary gland. I notice it kind of volleys back and forth between the two. Either way, it has a lot to do with our capacity to trust our intuition to activate our intuition, to go beyond the rational mind, and to dream our lives into being. It's a beautiful chakra. It's one that, again, it's located right between the eyebrow, uh, right in the center there. And it's very much a place where we get that inspiration from source. It comes in through our crown. And then if we're really, if this area is more open, we will get clear visions. We will see things. I know from working with clients before in the past, sometimes with coaching and healing work, I'm a naturally very visual person. I'm an artist soul. I'm also a visual arts teacher. I've been doing that for 27 years in the public school system here. It's natural and easy for me to visualize things ever since I was a child. It's not that way for everyone. And so sometimes this center is more developed in some people, and in others it's a little less developed. That being said, it doesn't mean that we can't develop it. And there's a great blessing in activating it and developing it and cultivating it, because this is the crux of the matter. If we're only looking at what has outpictured in so-called reality, 3D material reality, and identified that as being what is most real, and have this sort of programming running inside of us that that's just my imagination or it's not real, then this sets up sort of a polarity energetically within us that leans us towards a predisposition of focusing on the 3D materiality as being what is most real. And what I've come to learn along the way in my own journey is that what we're seeing in front of us is a collection of past choices, actions, focuses, etc. It's actually, we're looking for all intents and purposes at the past. We're not actually looking at the present. We're looking at the results of our past thinking, emotions, visions, whatever you want to call it, patterns, habits, behaviors. That's what we're looking at in front of us right now. When we're talking about, quantum healing and we're talking about the quantum field, there is no past and there is no future. There's just the eternal now. It's outside of clock time. It's a totally different experience of ourselves in this dimension of experience. And we exist in many dimensions of experience simultaneously. So this is where it gets really interesting. And so when we are focusing on looking at, how our day is going, and we're noticing certain things that maybe aren't making us happy or that we wish would be different. And then oftentimes what kicks in is people have the thought, it is what it is, and it becomes this kind of oppositional relationship to what seems to be most real out there, and this kind of push-pull energy between us and it, as though it's somehow separate, when nothing could be further from the truth. The beautiful thing is when we start to open and activate our intuition, our capacity to, and intuition happens on many different levels. It isn't only visual, by the way. I just want to clarify that because I might be making it sound like, and I know a lot of you already know this, especially if you're watching this on Oneness Talk Radio, but you never know. It's like sometimes I just want to be clear about my own my own understanding and perception of it too. It's not that it's only visual. People have many different ways of receiving intuitive information, from hearing to inspired speech to scent to taste to physical sensation. It's manifold. And yet the visual part, the imagination part, the capacity to see something that doesn't already exist in 3D material reality is a superpower. It really is. During the pandemic, I was guided to start exploring the collected works of the early Christian mystic Neville Goddard. And I don't know why I said early Christian mystic. Sorry, just Christian mystic. I threw that one in there. I don't know why. Maybe early for me. and and he has this whole process that I definitely practice in my own life called living from the end. I talk about it from time to time in various different, contexts, because it's something that as soon as I read it, it actually called something forward in me that I was sort of almost doing instinctively. And at the same time, oh, isn't that interesting? I think, pardon me, I don't usually have this happen during calls, but there is a phone call coming through. I apologize for that. It's on, I could hear something buzzing. So that being said, back to Neville Goddard and living from the end. Living from the end is all about focusing on what you most want to create, see, experience as if it's here already now. That's it in its simplest nutshell. He goes, I mean, he's got a book about this thick that I have been studying. And essentially, that's it in a nutshell. And this might sound similar to other practices you may have encountered out there. And so I can say in the laboratory of my own life that it's something that I have been using and applying now for close to 5 years. And in all truth, sometimes I've been really consistent with it. For a long stretch of time in the beginning, I was super consistent with it. And then there have been moments where, like it happens for a lot of us, I've sort of backslid and fallen away from it. And that's actually been a good thing, because it's given me the opportunity to notice and discern the difference in the quality of my experience, and even the kinds of thoughts that surface, emotions that surface as a result of having stepped away from it. So it's all good. It's all, fertilizer for the soul, as I like to say. And so when we are looking to take really good care of ourselves as light workers, this is such an important area to really cleanse and have discernments around, so that we are noticing what we're noticing in a way that allows us to choose what is most in alignment with us, as opposed to being distracted by images, visions, perceptions that would have us believe otherwise. And so if we want to really stabilize the center, it does, there's no miracle, shortcut, right? The miracle is the consistency, right? The miracle is the daily practice of living from the end and focusing on what you most want to create. And then being able to also step back and notice when those thoughts are pulling you out of that alignment, when those emotions, are pulling you into contraction, when your body is trying to get your attention because perhaps, you're moving in the wrong direction, or, you're standing still too long, or something, right? And so the beauty of, caring for the center is that really it is as unique as everyone is. And because we're all sort of facets of the oneness. You think of the oneness as like this big, beautiful diamond. We're all beautiful facets expressing the oneness through this multidimensional presence and experience this is why everything glimmers when we're connected to that full alignment of who we most truly are. And we're able to express it with clarity. And that clarity comes from that vision, that inner seeing, and the trusting of it as actually more real. And this is so hard for the mind to form. I know in my own journey, my own mind to form has fought me tooth and nail at times about this, because it's told me, don't be delusional, don't be all these things. And I feel it's always a balance, right? Between noticing from a place of neutrality what is outpicturing in front of us, simply because by doing that, we receive feedback about how in alignment or out of alignment we are moving breath by breath, step by step, as we, move through our day. And sometimes that feedback feels wonderful to receive, and other times like, OMG, I don't want to hear that. And then we may take some scenic detours down some other paths until we come out again into the clearing and see that maybe we zigzagged for a little while, only to come back to the place where, okay, which path feels the most aligned? Which choices feel the most aligned? Which thoughts and emotions support that? And so this is where I like to see life as being like a big fable in a lot of ways. There's many twists and turns, there's many plot twists, and our capacity to see is beyond our eyes, really and truly. It's the capacity to not just see, like I've been sharing, what's physically in front of us, because that's the result of what we've seen in vision before. And also, it's the result of certain habitual patterns and behaviors that we may have been programmed to repeat. And if those are not bringing us joy, peace, love, if they're not creating expansion in our lives, then here's the rub, right? As Shakespeare would say, because if everything is expanding right now, then even this is going to sound, this is what Spirit's guiding me to say, even the contraction is expanding. Ouch. That just doesn't feel comfortable, right? The contraction is expanding, but that's not expansion. That's tightening up even more. And so part of it begins with giving permission to acknowledge those inner visions. For so long, and so many of us have heard this saying, if you can see it, if you can dream it, it already exists. And it really does. It exists on another timeline. And how do you get from here to there? It's about being a frequency match. How would I feel if I was there in this moment, experiencing what I'm seeing? Am I feeling that right here now in this moment? If I'm not, it's not a frequency match to be over here. And so if you want to talk about timeline jumping, it's about shifting the frequency to match the timeline that we're seeing in our mind's eye. I often feel like our soul will show us where we want to be, and it will also offer us feedback of where we are now so that we can claim the learning. We can love those parts of us back into the light and the truth of who we are. And so it's a process. And I think this is where the mind of form gets sticky with us, because if it doesn't happen instantaneously, which it actually is, and this is another conundrum on the quantum level, is our perception of time and space is slow for one very good reason in the 3D realm. If it were fast and we were manifesting everything, our heads might just blow off and steam might come out of our ears because we're not ready for it yet from this level of perceiving reality. If, on the other hand, when we're starting from that sort of 3D material realm process of expanding our consciousness, have patience, have consistency, have trust, surrender and let go of the expectations and the attachment to the end result being exactly as we perceived it in the beginning as the inspiration for the new creation, then over time, what will happen is it will outpicture. And I've often noticed in my own journey how quickly something outpictures or not depends on how much house cleaning I need to do inside of myself to be ready to receive the guests. Because who wants to, visit a house that's got clutter and chaos all over it, right? There's no space for the guests to sit down in it, right? So, little analogy there, right? So, whereas in quantum time, it's happened in an instant. And so I think this is where sometimes when we are reading about quantum healing, quantum uh, manifesting, or anything like that, it sets the mind to form up to say, well, it didn't work if it didn't happen instantaneously. But who's to say it didn't happen instantaneously? Because it really depends where we're starting from on the journey. You know, there may there may be the perception of lag time when you're actually on the timeline that you're calling in, it happened instantaneously. And I think we can all relate to that because there may have been moments in our lives where we've experienced fast time and slow time depending on what we're doing. I've noticed if I'm actually doing something that I love and enjoy, the time goes by so quickly and it feels like 2 minutes have passed. Whereas if I'm doing something that maybe I'm telling myself I have to do and I don't really want to do or I've been avoiding doing, it can sometimes time can seem to move so slowly. Also, too, when I'm working on things that are creative, where I'm visualizing things, the time goes by so fast, so quickly. Whereas the actual production of what I'm creating seems to take many hours. If I'm tidying up um, a bunch of, clutter somewhere in my house, I can spend days looking at it, wondering, when am I going to do this? When am I going to have time for it? That's what takes the time, the mentalization of it. But the actually physically doing it happens much more rapidly. So we all have these experiences where time is not fixed. It's fluid, depending on what level of perception we are showing up for it from. And so this is very much third eye too. Another thing that I've come across in my journey and I've experienced is people talking about fluoride with use with the third eye chakra and how it can calcify it. I'm sort of a moderate person. I don't go 0 to 60. I know my drinking water where I live has probably fluoride in it. I do use a filter to alkalize the water. I don't know that it removes all of the chlorine and fluoride, but it definitely helps to restructure the water. I drink a lot of restructured water. I also use a fluoride-free toothpaste, and those things I notice must be helping because I feel like I do receive a lot of intuitive information. Again, these are other things you can play with yourself to see through contrast. If you notice a difference, maybe you're already doing them. That's another way that you can take care of your third eye chakra and help it to be clean and clear. And another thing too is to give yourself permission to dream. Keep a dream journal. One of the ways I really like to dream is to move my body, whether it's going out for a walk in nature and forest bathing, which I love to do. And I'm going to go do that today because it's beautiful and sunny here today. I also find that moving my body to music, as a chakra dance facilitator, I love to move my body to music because that's a way too that it allows my mind to form to relax. And with the body being like the subconscious mind, a lot of what's in there, just like it does when I'm dreaming at night, can float up to the surface in terms of sensations, memories, insights, and visions. And as I'm moving with the energy that's coming up. And as I'm moving with the energy that's coming up, I'm feeling a connection to my soul, connection to my body, my emotions, my mind, my spirit. And because it's moving, it's creating a new relationship, a new dynamic, a new frequency, and it's integrating itself. It's bubbling up to the surface, and I'm already in that beautiful intuitive flow state. So it's just allowing myself to see new combinations of, rather than bits and pieces. And so it reconfigures into something that if I had only seen those bits and pieces, it would look very different. And it also allows me to have a felt sense of what's bubbling up to the surface so that then it feels more embodied. It doesn't feel like something outside of me because I can literally feel it coming up from inside of me. And with the mind being relaxed, then somehow it accepts what's being presented to me more. And I'm able to integrate that whole multidimensional experience of being with it into the now experience in a new way. And that jumpstarts my creativity too. And so I love the expression, and I use it a lot, of dancing your dreams into being, because when we're actually dancing with our multidimensional presence and moving with our multidimensional presence, this is the seeing that goes beyond just the eyes itself. This is the seeing with our whole being, with our multidimensional being, and moving with it. Because when we're moving, we're alive. And even when we're sitting still, we're still moving because there's breath oxygenating every cell in our body. There is the movement of blood flow. There is the movement of chi and energy and all this stuff. It's just when we're consciously moving our body and listening to it, it just amplifies everything that's going on in a way that I feel like for a lot of people too, because we tend to lead fast-paced lives, the movement is a beautiful bridge into accessing that. Because for some people, sitting still can be difficult and distracting, to because they're trying so hard to sit still, to tap in and tune into themselves, that instead of doing that, it becomes a little bit more of this push-pull energy again. So the movement is a beautiful way to really feel that deeper connection with your soul self, open, activate, and balance, this feedback portal in our energy system, the third eye chakra, through all the other beautiful energetic portals that are opening and coming online too. So the stabilizing piece is really ultimately, and this is my last point, and then I'm going to go check the chat and see if there are any comments or any questions or any aha moments or just things you'd like to share. And that is that the discernment of really getting clear about what is a memory that's repeating as a future projection and what is truly a vision. And one of the biggest ways that I've been able to discern this is if it excites and even generates a little bit of, oh, inside of me, it's a vision. And if it's super comfy and super familiar, it's a past experience recycling itself. If it makes me feel joyous and optimistic and hopeful, oftentimes those visions are visions of things that my logical mind will want to tell me are too big for my britches, or whatever the saying. I think that's the saying, too big for my britches. And I know from actually practicing living from the end that two things have become possible. And these have been lived experiences so far in my life, and I'm incredibly hand on heart feel grateful and blessed for them. And this is why I love this topic of talking about the third eye chakra, is that down to the words, I have been surprised, pleased, and delighted by when I least expected it. The words out of the mouth of someone that I cared for, the shifts that I've seen have been exactly verbatim as what I've called in, with patience, tenacity, persistence, sincerity, neutrality. Some people say this or something even better. I just release it and trust that it may look like this. It might look completely different. It might happen in 3D 3-month timelines, or it might happen 9 months from now. It might happen 2 years from now. I just trust that if I can see it, it's already done. I give thanks for it being already done. So one of the things that has been possible is in those moments when I might be having a very human moment where I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? How come everything feels like it's going AWOL? or sideways on me, I have these little check-in points with myself where I'm like, remember, you called that in. You've also called this in. So let's just recalibrate again. Let's just go back to affirming and trusting that we have the, that I say we because I'm thinking about my multidimensional self, like my thoughts, my emotions, all these different dimensions of me have the capacity to get on the same page and be clear. It's the clarity that called those moments in. And the key is when we start to notice our mind getting distracted by past memories coming up that are just trying to protect us, and the mind is stepping in and doing all these soupy things. The key is to get quiet and get still and get really super clear. And, I'm going to just share this with you too, because I've noticed this in my own journey, and it's probably not what we want to hear, but it's the honest truth from what I've seen on my own journey, is that at those moments when we most want to be clear is when we're going to get a bit of a temper tantrum from the mind of form. The mind of form will start to say, well, you're not clear, or it's, how can you be clear if you're thinking all these things? It's that inner saboteur. It's just feels like it's losing its position of importance in your life. And so rather than fighting with it, it's really, really important to love the mind of form, to thank it, to praise it, to send it on a vacation. That's something I learned years ago at the Transformational Arts College. Help it to pack its bags and send it on a vacation. And just, appreciate it for being so good at what it does. And just don't fight it. Just accept it and know that you're not it. And then just quietly, tenaciously, persistently, stubbornly, even if need be, because I know I can be stubborn too, just focus on your vision, focus on your vision, focus on your vision, focus on your vision, and then give yourself permission to walk away and let it go. 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 Do something that you enjoy. Do something that will make you feel lighter. Might be cleaning out your closet. Just do something. Go for a walk in nature. Take a bath. Focus on the other things you need to do today, and then circle back around. I find mornings and evenings are really great times to set the intention to focus on what your vision is. And even if you don't feel 100% clear about what it is, just affirming, I am clear on my vision. My vision is so clear to me. And just be patient. And everything is a process. And if we trust the process and make that our ultimate intention, everything will start to align itself. And this is where we need to be able to sit with a little bit of uncertainty. We need to be able to be in that place of openness to what the universe also wants to reveal to us along the way. And so I'm just going to go to the chat right now, because I've been chatting a lot, and just see if there's any comments here. Okay, there's no one here right now. That's all right. If you're watching this on the replay and you feel like you'd like to share something in the comments below, I will definitely respond to your comment or your question below. Next week, we're going to be looking at the crown chakra. And I also just want to let you know, too, that coming up November 3rd, Sunday, November 3rd, I'm going to be holding a book club. It's a free book club. I would love for you to join us. And if you haven't already heard about it in some of my other episodes, this is the 10th anniversary of my book, Baby, In Rhythm with Your Soul, Break Through the Barriers to Being Creative. And it is a book that was a labor of love. It took me 10 years to write, and now it's been out for 10 years. And I feel it still holds true today. It's all about trusting and honoring your creative impulses and dreaming your dreams into being, dancing them into being. It's both a book about dance, and dance is a metaphor for how we dance through life and honor our creative process and navigate our creative process. I wrote this book because I didn't want people to throw in the towel prematurely. I have received a lot of really positive feedback, and I'm really sincerely grateful for that positive feedback on the book. Actually, in fact, someone just left me a voice message the other day. She bought the book from me before the pandemic, Leah, and she just because she wanted to, and this is what moved me so much, left me a voice message as she was walking her dog, saying how sad she was that the book was coming to an end because she had loved reading it so much, and that it had reignited in her and inspired her not only to dance, but just to be more passionate about moving forward in her life. And I feel so incredibly touched by her message and the spontaneity of it, that she just trusted it, and she shared it with me. And it's a book that I hope you'll have by your bedside when you wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and spirit's trying to reach you, because that's when spirit wakes us up often, is at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. And instead of sitting there and ruminating about woulda, coulda, shoulda, pick it up, randomly open it to a page. I've just randomly opened it to a page, and I'm going to read what I see here. And I'm smiling because I'm on page 89, and it says, to detach from the ego's clutches, we need to face our fears. Fear is the moist soil in which the ego thrives. Being brave and going for it may seem daunting at first, or not even possible at this age. These are all in air quotes. However, staying exactly where we are only guarantees more of the same until we decide to transform the experience altogether. Every time we remove an opportunity to grow because of the challenges posed, our life constricts. Our emotions become stuck, tightly glued in place, and this leads to rigid beliefs. Our experience of the world even feels energetically dense and heavy. As long as we immerse ourselves in fear, the ego looms large and we are in its clutches. When we can look it in the eye, reducing it to size, we become freer to begin creating consciously. And this is from chapter 6, and that is all about the body-mind connection and your emotions. And yes, so this book, I hope you'll join us for the book club. You can get a copy of this book. If you're curious about checking it out, you can go to my website, www.pollyanablanco.com. There is a landing page if you go to In Rhythm with Your Soul book club. There's also just a book page as well, too, with a book trailer on it if you want to get a little bit more about what this book's about. There's even an excerpt from the book, too, that you can access. So I invite you to check it out because I want to get this book into the hands of people it can truly support. We're living at such a precious moment here on Earth where we are at the precipice of a creative revolution. And we are shifting from a scientific paradigm to a creative paradigm where science and spirituality dance together. They partner together. This is a whole new epoch, massive paradigm shift going on with the new earth emerging. And this is a new earth book. It was part of my vision for the new earth, and I wrote it as a toolkit to help you, to support you, to feel less alone, to feel inspired, to reignite your passion for living, to find that soul purpose that you're looking for, and to trust yourself more, because the world needs you to dream your dreams into being and to dance them into a beautiful reality. And with that, I'm going to close today. Thank you so much for watching either live or on the replay. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. Next week, we'll be talking about going beyond balancing your crown chakra and the spiritual hygiene for your 7th energy center in your in-body energy system. Wishing you a wonderful, beautiful, creative week. Keep trusting yourself, keep believing in your dreams, and keep a dream journal by your bed. And be here live next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, so that if you want to ask questions or comment or even hop on live to share your experience, it would be an honor and a blessing to have you be here. Lots of love and light, beautiful creative soul. Be well.